All I could have done with in the past week is just communication, a better understanding of my feelings from the get go. And what happened essentially this week is I just went a little bit wahay. I went a little bit wahay. So, for context, I've moved out. I've been living on my own for coming up to 3 months. Yeah, 3 months next week. And for such a long time, I've been absolutely fine understanding like my responsibilities. I had no issues with that. I was like, you know what? Like, I know I'm moving out. I've got a stable job. That's why I did it. I can afford things. I'm in a good position to move out. I'm 22 and I'm feeling really confident. I'm ready to do this and I've done it. And I've been here for like, as I said, nearly 3 months now. But it was like the 3 month point where I think you go through that honeymoon period of feeling like you're on some kind of high because you're like, oh, this is so sick that I've been able to do this and I'm buying furniture and I'm painting pictures, a little self flex. And then you get to a point where you just kind of pause and there's not much more you can do. There's not much more you can think about. There's not much more you can essentially be proud of because it's like, okay, well, now it's just real life. You know, like it's like once I'd fully adjusted, I was then like, oh shit, oh fucking shit, I've done this now. And now I don't ever want to lose this. I don't ever want to lose this, which is where the anxiety just really fucking kicked in. Got incredibly anxious about like losing things close to me. And I got really anxious about losing my friends. I thought I was annoying my friends all the time. I got really anxious about work. I thought I was going to lose my job at every single tiny little mistake I made. I thought I was going to lose my flat. I thought that anything I do in my flat would be like a problem and then I would get kicked out and I would have to move back in with my parents, which isn't a problem. But, you know, once you reach an age where you realize, oh, I could actually live alone and have my own living room and shit now. Now I'm at that point and now I've adjusted to it. And now I've adjusted to all of my own creativity and freedom and blah, blah, blah. It's like, fuck, I don't ever want to lose this. I don't ever want to lose this. And rather than just being like, you fucking got this, king. Go you, gal. Keep going. I decided to then panic myself and absolutely shit myself and give myself so much anxiety, so much anxiety. And I gave myself so much pressure. And through all of this, there was like little disputes that were happening. And one of my best, closest friends ever, we had this little tiff because she didn't feel like I was prioritizing her. And I was aware that I wasn't being the best friend I could have been. And it was really bothering me because I was like, I don't know how to get myself back to being what I was before because I've adjusted to this new life. And I was like, this is so much pressure. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with myself? So much pressure just to try and like keep in check. And I think that's the hardest thing I found since moving out on my own is keeping in check with other people that are around. That's been the hardest part because you adapt to the life down here. I've adapted to the life down here. I've adapted to the friends down here. So I was getting to a point where I think I was finding it difficult to then prioritize the people that have got me to this position in the first place. And I even find now with my family and my parents and stuff, I do not communicate with them as much as I should because I'm just trying to figure out so much for myself at the same time. And it's been probably one of the hardest parts of moving out because you are having to kind of balance your own you're balancing your own personal life with all the other people that are in your life as well. And I think once you live alone, I work from home alone as well. So I am like very adjusted to being on my own. I get very used to just being in my own brain and being in my own thoughts. And I think I had this little episode last week, anxious episode that went into like a really bad sting of homesickness and I had to go back to my mum and dad's for a few days. And I think that is a result of me trying to sit there and deal with my emotions because I live alone and I've adjusted to not communicating my emotions to people and not communicating how I'm feeling. And because of that, it then just gets to the unhealthy stage, which it did, where I then had to go back to my mum and dad's because I was experiencing like an absolute horrible feeling of homesickness. And of course, I've only lived here for 3 months now. So as I said, in all of that time for the past 3 months, it's been like I've been in the honeymoon period where I've been having a great time, going out, drinking, going to the beach, sunbathing, doing all of these like fun things and never stopping to have personal admin time, as me and my friend like to call it. It's admin time where you check back in with your friends and your family and you kind of focus on all of those things that you as yourself need as a person. For example, this is what I need. I need a camera to talk to and I need to be creative all the time. And this is a form of creation for me. But what I was doing essentially was stopping myself from all of those things. And I got myself into this horrible pit of homesickness and the urge to find comfort in things where I wasn't finding comfort. And how I would explain that is I've come from a family that I lived at home. As a kid growing up, there was six of us, two dogs. When I left home, there's five of us at home with three dogs and three chickens, one's dead. So it's obviously like I've gone from a busy house to living solely on my own and then finding, and this is what I was trying to explain to my mum the other day. I feel like I actually have had bad anxiety this entire time. And I always knew I had bad anxiety. And I would always say to my mum, oh, it's gotten way better. It's gotten way better. I don't really deal with anxiety anymore. But I think what that was is me having comforts at home, me having comforts that help with the anxiety. Like Nessa, my dog, not my dog, but my dog. I would call her like my emotional support dog. And I would say it as a joke, but looking back, I think that's genuinely what she was for me. I think she was emotional support and she would calm me down. And I would talk to that dog. I would actually talk to her and I'd be like, oh, Nessa, the week I've had, me like sat there, she's at the end of my bed sleeping and I'm just talking to her. But that was my way of finding comfort. And moving here and experiencing all of the anxiety that I've been experiencing and experiencing the lack of comfort and stuff, realizing that she's not here to talk to, even though she can't fucking speak back, but realizing she's not here to talk to was like, oh shit, oh fucking shit. What the fuck do I do now? And I kind of like sat there in this discomfort for a few days. On Sunday, it all started on Sunday. So I went Saturday, I went Pride on Saturday, come back on Sunday, woke up at 12, hungover, great mood though. I was hungover, I was in a great mood. And found my mum, had a lovely conversation with my mum, watched some TV, went out for a nice little walk, come back from the walk, pit of anxiety, just like come over me like a fucking, like I can't even explain it. I literally walked in the flat and my chest just went, and like the pain from my chest, was not nice. I was kind of thinking, am I having a heart attack? Am I like, is this the end? Because it was not normal, the feelings I was experiencing. And bless my friend Emma, she gets all of the emotions on a voice note, and she heard me fucking crying and I was like crying my eyes out like, Emma, I don't know what's happening. Whereas like literally the day before that, I was doing fine. I was telling her, I was like, oh, I'm in a really good mood. I was like, I feel like all that like anxiety that I had, like it's kind of gone now. Like I'm getting into a good mood again. And then just literally like that next voice note, like, and I think what happened was me then going to like all of my friends, trying to get them to help me because I didn't want to show my parents that I wasn't coping, because I want them to think I'm doing great living an hour away from them. I don't want them to start worrying about my mental health and stuff. When I'm an hour's drive away from them, I don't want them to worry. So I'm going to all of my friends trying to communicate my feelings. And obviously, when you're communicating to all different people with all different experiences, rather than going to someone like my parents who will just know me the best and they'll know how I'm actually going to mentally respond and blah, blah, blah. Because I did that, I feel like I was getting loads of different opinions on how to deal with what I was dealing with. And the biggest assumption when I was saying to people, like, I feel really anxious, I don't know what to do, I'm just panicking all the time. The biggest assumption that came back from that was people was assuming that I was actually just struggling to be alone. And it was making me really frustrated and I was getting quite defensive because I have this issue where I'm like, I work from home alone, I live alone. I don't think that reflects someone that struggles to live alone. If I knew I couldn't be alone, I would have never moved out alone. This is the thing I keep saying. Like, I would have never done this if I couldn't be alone. And this is what I keep saying to people and I can understand why they would make that misconception that, oh, you struggle to be alone. They would think that because I'm literally crying my eyes out saying I don't know what the fuck to do with myself. I just want to see my mum and dad. That sounds like, oh shit, you're really struggling and you can't be alone. I can understand that link. But I know for myself that link was just purely me needing comfort. Oh, little voice crack. That was purely me needing comfort in a time where I didn't have that comfort because there's no comforts here for me yet. I've only been here 3 months, I've not got a dog around me to just randomly pet and then feel okay. So last week was horrible. It was not nice. I was like, I think Monday. So Sunday I had my like, hang on. Sunday, come back from my walk, had my like, what the fuck chest pains, where you come from. And then I tried watching Love Island to like distract myself a little bit. And then that wasn't working. And I was like, fuck, if Love Island's not distracting me, what the fuck is going to distract me? And then it was just like this, and it was just this like overwhelming feeling of dread just hit me. And I was like, I need to go down to the beach. I was like, I need to go down to the beach, get some air, get some fresh air. I feel really uncomfortable in this position right now that I'm in. Let me just go down to the beach. So packed up my stuff, quickly turned all the lights off because obviously as a homosexual, all of the lights are on all of the time. Not the overheads, all the lamps. So like I'm fucking running around like clicking all the lights off, and I'm like grab my bag, run down to the beach, fast walk down to the beach, sit on the beach, and I'm like, why am I? And I was literally just talking to myself. I was like, why am I feeling like this? I was like, what is wrong with me? And then bless poor Emma again. I'm like voice noting her, and I'm like, girl. I was like, I don't know what these emotions are. I don't know what to do with myself. I just want to go home, Emma. But I was like, I don't want to go home because I don't want to bite into temptation and just do the thing that my brain's telling me to do. Because in my head, everyone had this misconception that I was struggling to be alone. So I was like, well, I'm going to prove to you guys, I don't struggle to be alone. I can do this. I don't actually struggle with being alone. Like, I should have just gone home. But because I was trying to prove a point, bless my little cotton socks, I sit there on the beach crying my eyes out to Emma over a voice note. And I'm like, I really miss my mum. I think I just need to go home, but I don't want to prove it. Like, I don't want to go home and like buy into temptation. I just want to stay. I want to stay here. And I know I can do it. I'll be fine. I just need to get over this little like wave of emotions. Like I've just been so up and down this week, blah, blah, blah. And then I then go to see my friend, bless his cotton socks. He has to deal with my major fucking breakdown. Come away from there, still feeling like shit. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. I feel uncomfortable. My chest is really hurting. That night I stayed up to about 4 a.m. talking to ChatGPT. I know, fucking don't judge me. That ChatGPT is such a good therapist. I don't even care. That for like hours, I had like a 3 hour long conversation with ChatGPT trying to like get to the root of what was causing this like dread of emotions. And that's when I finally come to the conclusion that I was just dealing with homesick. Basically then figured out from ChatGPT that what was happening was just a result of homesickness, just like an overwhelming amount of homesickness that is a feeling I've never experienced before. So it was panicking me more that I didn't know what the feeling was. And as a result of needing all of the comforts from home, it was making me incredibly emotional, and it was making me look like to people that I was struggling to be alone. And as a result of that, I think I put even more pressure on myself. Remember, and I was saying like, oh, I put so much pressure on myself this week because I keep thinking that my friends hate me and no one wants to see me. And like, you know, I'm really going into my head about it. And I put so much pressure on myself that I then started putting more pressure on myself, because even in a time where I just had a full on like breakdown, I was still putting pressure on myself to try and prove to people, no, I'm actually okay on my own. I just need the comforts from home right now. But I still, once I realised that I was homesick, still didn't want to go back to my mum and dad's, because I wanted to prove a point that I was capable and that I live alone now. I can deal with this and it's okay. So Monday comes along, wake up, got work that day. Obviously, I went to bed at like 4 o'clock, so I hadn't had the best night's sleep. Wake up at 9 o'clock. My meeting starts at 9. Judge me if you want, but you know, I had a fucking shit night, all right? But no, had my day at work, and that chest pain just didn't go for the entire day. It was still there, and I was really trying to figure out what was happening, and I was getting frustrated at little things, and I just really wasn't in the frame of mind to essentially be in the flat. Like, I just, not in like a dangerous way or anything, but like I just wasn't in the right frame of mind to be sat with my own thoughts, because I couldn't just settle. I couldn't, like a bit like do you know like a dog? Do you know when a dog's really hot and they just can't sit still? That was me. Like, I just kept getting up and doing things, and then I would try and like Google things to do in the evening or something, just to try and like distract myself away from what was happening. And then I kind of like relaxed a little bit when I started cooking, and I spoke to my friend about it, and I was like, it's so interesting, because the minute I started cooking, all of the anxiety just went away. That whole like painful feeling of dread and everything just went away. And it really like surprised me, the impact of cooking and how it can just majorly twist your mind onto something else. And that sort of anxiety and that anxiety just faded away slowly. And it made me really look at how people enjoy cooking as a hobby. I enjoy cooking because I like food, but it made me realize how people do actually properly enjoy it as a hobby. But that's another conversation. Um, so Monday goes, I watched Love Island. You know, I didn't really do that much. I didn't do that. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't do much that evening because I just wanted to give my brain and my body a rest because I'd been in so much pain the entire day with my chest, with the anxiety. And I was like, I just don't want to like stress myself out and give myself a challenge to like, you know, film this video or do that. I was like, I just want a day of, I just want to finish work and just rest because I don't think my body can take any more anxiety. Um, so I go to sleep Monday. I wake up on Tuesday in a much better mindset, in a much better mindset. I was excited to start the day, had a lovely little shower, was talking to my best friend about how I'm going to look at putting routines into my life. I think one thing I've realized about moving out is I could really do with having a set routine, having the idea that, you know, once you finish work, go for a walk, come back from your walk, go for a shower, have dinner. You know, it's like all of these things just to have some kind of routine in my life to give me not necessarily a purpose through the day, but just to give me some kind of direction. Because obviously, like I said, I've moved out. I've been moved out for 3 months, but when I go back to my mum and dad's, I click into a routine like that. And I know once I finish work, I'll go sit on the sofa and I'll doom scroll for a little bit, get up, go for a shower. And all of those things feel so normal, except when I do that here, it doesn't feel normal because I've not quite adjusted to the idea of having a routine here yet. I think it will come with time. I'm not adding any pressure to myself to force myself to have this routine. I am also incredibly spontaneous. So me having a routine doesn't really quite work with my schedule, but just a loose routine to give me an idea of how my day looks, I think will be really helpful for my mental health because it will give me direction. It will give me something to consider that's going to happen later in the day. I know it sounds silly, but I think it's the safer option for my brain right now. For the entire day, I was just watching YouTube and I was specifically watching is it Madeline Argy or Madeline Argy? I don't know. I always get confused. But I was watching her videos and she does videos like this, just talking to a camera for like half an hour about all of her thoughts that week. And like I was looking through all these comments and people were relating so much. And I was like, I never do these videos because I think it might be too niche for people to care or for people to relate to it. And then I was reading all these comments. I was like, oh, fucking hell, people really relate to it. And I was really relating to everything she was saying. So I was like, okay, well, I need to do this. Like, why am I not doing this? But anyway, so that kind of, I put that in my notes and I said, you know, a goal for myself is to do these sort of videos, do them more often because it's the way that I think perform the best when it comes to content creating is when I'm just talking truthfully and randomly about things that have happened. And then one of the other things I did that day is I started a new TikTok series and I got so excited about that creatively because I was like, this is such a good opportunity for me to properly grow my TikTok following and also just gain confidence in general with content creating and going out and filming. So that's one thing that I started on Tuesday, which I was really, really happy about. And I was from that point, really good mood. I was in an absolutely great mood. And even as the evening went on, I cooked dinner. I was in a great mood. That anxiety feeling was still a little bit there. It was still like a little just empty there. But I was like, you know what? It's going away. It's fading away. I feel great. It comes to Love Island time. I'm watching Love Island again. Feel great. Nothing's going wrong. Then all of a sudden, all of a fucking sudden, my mum sent me a picture of her drinking beer in the garden. And I sat there and I paused and I was like, I asked myself, because obviously I've been feeling homesick. So any kind of sign of home is going to make me and my anxious brain go, oh shit, I want to go. I want to go. So seeing that picture was like, oof. And I was like trying to fight the urge to just be like, oh, okay, I'm coming now. Okay, see you in a bit, you know, and fighting the urge. Bless, talking to Emma again. The minute I picked up that phone, voice noting, immediately started crying. And I was like, okay, no, I was like, this is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, I've just had a really good day. And then my emotions just went straight back down to the fucking floor again. I spoke to Emma, then I messaged my best friend and I was like, what do you think I should do? And she was like, to be honest, she was like, you are not in a stable, you know, you're not in a stable mind. You know, you can tell your head's not clear. Just go home. Just fucking go home. And I was like, okay. I said, people won't think I'm crazy for doing this then. So I phoned my mum and I was like, can I come home, please? Can I please come home? And I did. And I went home and I went home to my mum and dad's for 3 days. I've come back. No, was it 3 days? 4 days. Yeah, I went home for 4 days, went back to my mum and dad's for 4 days. And since that point, touch wood, there's a lot of wood around here. Touch wood, I feel okay. I do feel great. I feel like I've come back with a complete fresh mind. I've set myself so many goals to correct myself, essentially, and reframe my mind into looking forward rather than looking present, if that makes sense. I think when I lived at my mum and dad's, I always lived in the present. I always felt that living in the present was one of the most effective things for me because it removed any of my anxiety about jobs. It removed any anxiety about friendships. Just staying in the present and focusing on the emotions at that time has always been my coping method for not being anxious about things. But for the first time in my life, I feel like living with the idea of the future is the safest thing I can do for my mindset right now because it gives me something to look forward to. It gives me something to look ahead to rather than just sit here. Because I could sit here now, and this is why I was like fucking ready to punch someone when they were like, "Oh, I think you're struggling to be alone," is because I can sit here on my own and do this and feel absolutely fine. Literally, I was gonna take myself out for lunch earlier, and then I looked at my bank account and I thought, yeah, look, yeah, and just like have your like 50p noodles and shut the fuck up. Like you ain't going out, you ain't, you're not being treated. Okay, you are not being treated. Eat your fucking noodles and shut up. So, but I would have been happy to just to go out on my own, buy myself lunch, sit down, have my little lunch. I would be absolutely fine with that. And I think this is something where I'm like really trying to push through to people is because I could go to the pub on my own. I was literally going to go to the pub on my own last night to watch football because there is absolutely no fucking way I would be sitting here on my todger. I feel like that's not the saying. There is absolutely no way that I'd be sitting on my own watching football with a beer in my hand on my own. I would not be doing that. No judgment to anyone that does do that, but I would not be doing that as a 22-year-old man. So I was fully ready to come back, drop my stuff off, go straight to the pub. I ended up seeing my friend anyway, so it didn't matter. But point is, I would have not done that on my own, and I would have made sure I would have done that on my own. And I think this is something I'm so excited about living on my own for, because if you told me 3 months ago, oh, by the way, you go to the pub on your own, he'd be like, what a fucking loser. Why are you doing that? And how the fuck are you doing that? Because I wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean? Like the amount of satisfaction I think I receive for myself. And it's a lot of, I guess for me, it's a lot of self-gratitude, self-love, being able to go out and enjoy yourself just as yourself is one of probably the most effective things someone can do. And I think for the longest time, I've had a unhealthy attachment style to every single person around me. I think I always want to make sure that that person likes me. And like it's unhealthy in relationships, it's unhealthy in friendships. I'm always on edge, always terrified that one of my friends is going to turn around one day and be like, you really fucking annoyed me, go away from me. I'm so terrified of that. And one of the things I was realizing to myself I call it rehab. I think going back to my mum and dad's was like rehab for me. I did drink every day, but like it's like alcoholic rehab. The way I was going to word it was that I find for me to be successful in relationships and friendships and all of those things, I also need to learn how to enjoy myself and enjoy fun times on my own. I think I'm always dependent on someone else being there to ensure that I have fun, but I know I can also just have fun on my own. And I think this is one of the biggest things that I'm learning whilst living alone is that I'm fun to be around. Like I love being around just myself. I'm fun. I sit there and I do like fucking multiple funny TikToks. I think of all these random things. I note them all down. I do a TikTok about it. And it's great because it's just my brain on a constant whirlwind, putting content out so randomly and so naturally, and people are receiving it well. And that's a great thing for my brain because it's like, oh shit, like people like listening to what I have to say, you know? But no, I think one of the biggest things for me moving forward at this point in my life is to always have a goal in mind. There's been I think for such a long time I've gotten quite comfortable with my life and been like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like I don't need to push towards anything. I think having goals in my life is one of the most effective things I could do for myself right now, because having a set of goals and having these set of plans and having all these different things for me to try and all these things for me to do is going to probably take me into the next state. I think I'm going to call it the next chapter of my life where I am not someone that, how do I word it? I'm not someone who's like I want to step into the next chapter of my life and be someone that's confident, be someone that if no one's on the dance floor, just fucking walk on the dance floor, even if I'm sober. Just genuinely just have fun. And like because I can see it when I see people being fucking funny and being loud. I like sit there in awe because I would love to be that person. I know by nature, I don't think I would necessarily be a loud person. And I say by nature because my vocal cords are not that fucking loud. I can't speak loud. So it's only natural that I'm not going to be the loudest in the room. And I'm okay with that. But I also don't want to be the invisible person in the room. I don't want to. But I think that's also all about how I see myself. I think I see myself as the invisible one in the room because I'm noticing myself as not the loudest one. But at the same time, my presence is appreciated and my presence has impact. And that's something that I always need to remind myself. I'm not the invisible one and I'm not the quiet, boring one. I'm just someone that is there. I feel like I'm the mediator between all of the groups and friendship groups I've been in before and the groups I'm in now and the friendships I have. I think I'm always the mediator. I think I'm friends with quite strong personalities. And because I've not got the strongest personality, but I just have the middle ground, I think that's why it always works. It always works because of that. But yeah, I do feel really good. I feel good and I feel sane and I feel like going home and getting all of those comforts and then coming back to my flat and me being me, fucking move my flat all around again and making it feel even more homely for myself has probably been one of the best things I've done for myself. And I think I said this in the past about a few different things that I've experienced, but I genuinely believe everything happens for a reason. And I think what's happened in the past week was the universe basically saying, you need to experience this and you need to feel like utter shit. You need to feel fucking awful. You're going to have a really bad week and you're not going to be mentally sane. And you're going to be constantly trying to explain to your friends that you're not this and you're not that. And you're going to be in a constant state of fear. But it's going to be so worth it because once you go back home and you get your comfort and you come back to your other home, you're going to be absolutely fine. And that is exactly what's happened. I've come back with a complete new fresh mind, I don't want to say complete new personality, but I've come back knowing that I'm changing and I'm changing my ways to benefit myself. And I think that's one of the most important things that anyone could do for themselves is by turning the most negative thing into the most positive thing. And yeah, I am very proud of myself. I'm giving myself a pat on the back for going through a mentally scary few days and twisting that. And also just like the skills I've learned through this little breakdown, the communication skills I've learned as well, I've gotten so much better. Like, I've been able to communicate issues with some of my friends where I felt upset about something, and I've been able to like communicate it properly and explain to them why I feel upset, and also then at the same time find a balance and find a solution for that. And I think that's so effective for me because I've been someone throughout my whole life that if I was upset with something, or if I was bothered with something, I would keep it to myself, overthink it, and then in the long run end up hurting myself and damaging that friendship because I'm allowing these bad negative thoughts about that person to take over the actual misconception or misunderstanding from their side. And I am incredibly proud of myself for being able to communicate those things because I also then knew I was so anxious that I was already so anxious so that if I didn't communicate any more of my anxieties at that time, I would have come back here feeling like utter shit still and needing to clear the air even more so. But I've come back feeling fresh, feeling clear, feeling like I've got a good head, feeling like I've got a good state of mind ahead of me. And I know that this isn't going to be the last blip. There's going to be other blips. I'm 22, it's something I always need to remind myself. I'm 22. I've only been moved out for 3 months. I've come from a big family. I've come from a family with there's loads of dogs and there's fucking chickens, like I've come from chaos to just silence. So it's finding the middle ground between that. And I think I do have that. I think I have found that middle ground. I think it's just finding the comforts in that middle ground and finding a reason to feel okay with myself. That's how I feel. But yeah, I believe I actually just spoke to a camera for about half an hour about my feelings. That is very refreshing and fun. And I hope people can take something from this, and people that have experienced or going through similar situations, just remember there is always a positive to every negative, and there is always something you can do for yourself to make yourself feel better and feel seen and feel heard by your friends, by your family. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that little situation. I hope you enjoyed my yap, and I hope to do more of these. I hope to do more of these about things that actually aren't me having a fucking breakdown. Probably be more me just talking about other things like fucking love life, because that's a mess. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you next time I upload. Bye bye.